All right. What's the bit podcast again? It's that time again.
Happy Thursday, gentlemen.
All right.
Yay.
Well, this is exciting. What number episode are we at so far?
This is number 5.
I'm always so surprised. It's just like, wow, they keep the numbers, they just keep going up one after another.
This is number 5.
I'm always so surprised.
Oh, I'm hearing some feedback.
Yeah,
Some echo.
I got it too. I took care of it on my side. So, wow, that was awesome. What I just did there.
Yeah.
Anyways, gang, what's our topic for today?
It's the sequel of the first episode, right? Sex part 2.
Part 2. Oh, so we're like we're using the information, or what is that? The pronunciation of the film Hot Shot.
I fixed it.
You fixed it?
I fixed it.
Oh, good deal.
Good. Yeah, because Tyson, you were kind of recapping where we left off on the first episode. What was the bit there?
The bit, yeah. So like the bit was like
It was an IKEA.
Yeah,
It was an IKEA instruction.
So basically, it's like, every man or a younger man, when they're going to approach their having sex for the first time, they got a lot of wood and they don't know where to put it. It's just like a middle-aged man trying to put it together, some IKEA furniture.
There's no words. There's just pictures you got to figure out.
Yeah, like I know for me personally, like I was puzzled when I looked at a vagina and there wasn't a cross section. I was like, pretty sure it goes.
You've looked at one? I usually keep the lights off.
I blindfold myself.
I got to tell you, I've had sex with one woman who, like, she needed to have the lights off, like, so much. Like, it was like, first off, this was a one night stand.
Can we talk about the lights being off for a second? I'm sorry to interject,
Sure.
but my bedside table, I have to turn off my printer so I can sleep. Yeah, that's where I keep my printer.
So there's like an LED, or are you just constantly like running off like dot matrix like GIFs?
There's that like neon circle that's blue that like illuminates the entire world.
A bright LED. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, I can't stand that. That'll keep me up too.
I do kind of like the idea of like just the old dot matrix, like the reams of paper, and it's like, and it's just like penises, and it's just printing penises like from like the old like ASCII text files. I think that's a great way to do it.
Cool. So sex
Next level. We've graduated.
So lights off. Yeah, I think like what's the next step with sex? Like, like how things mature, like how, because I think that we all become different sexual creatures as we become more comfortable. Like we learn that we like new things. We are introduced to different things. We embrace other details, and then like what sex is and what turns us on becomes wildly different. I think as we age. I know that for me personally, like what I find as a turn on has changed. No,
I agree. Yeah, I mean, I don't. Well, what I was thinking is it takes it does take time to even just understand for yourself. Like it's kind of a self journey, right? I was having a conversation the other day with a woman, and asking her about orgasms. Like, has she experienced an orgasm? And she said that she thinks she has, which is just an interesting thing, because with a guy, I mean, there's not a whole lot of question, right? With a girl, it seems like maybe there's a question, or at least if you are inexperienced or you're not open with communicating about it, then the answer is, I think I have. And then she went on to kind of explain to me what she thought it was. And it was a very interesting explanation, because I sat there going, like, I don't know if that's what it is for women, but it doesn't sound like what it would be described. So, but then again, I'm not I haven't interviewed thousands of women on this topic, so I'm not an expert. But if I could, I'll just throw this out there. This might be a nice starting point because this is how she explained her orgasm to me. And ladies, you can chime in if you feel like verifying some of the stuff because we're just three monkeys in a cage up here.
Yep, just read the excitement on my face here. I love where this is going.
So she explained her that she explained her orgasm as just a feeling of satisfaction and like she could move on, like it was over, just kind of like just a feeling of okay, I'm done now, like that was good enough or something like that. And if you hear the words I'm saying, like that's kind of why when I heard it I was like I don't know, is that an orgasm, to just be like okay, that's enough. I'm satisfied, because that's not what it is for a guy, right?
I mean, like after I get done like orgasming, I'm like pretty much ready to die. So like that is actually pretty accurate. Like I was just like, I'm okay, I'm done. No.
Yeah, pretty much either go to sleep or I need to write a dissertation.
But the way she was talking was not like, woo, I'm done. Like it was more like okay, calm and like okay, that's good enough.
I think that like as far as descriptions go, that's a pretty G-rated one. As far as like, because I think we glossed over like some pretty good details there of like what an orgasm is, but like at the same time, I think that there is a certain amount, and like let's face it, it is different for the genders. Like it's different for individuals, right? I would say that I know that with some of the partners I've had, that like the one orgasm is the thing that gets them going. And it's not so much that I've had the good one that I wanted and now I'm ready to relax. I like that kind of statement sort of resonates, I think, for a lot of men. We're like, oh, we finally made it to that. Like, I think the word a lot of us use is release. Like there's a mental release, a physical release. There's quite obviously a physical release. But I think that for some women, it's also, they have their first orgasm and it's like there's more of an awakening, and it will start a cycle of them. But it does seem that there is usually like they're trying to get to one specific really good one, and then after that, like maybe there's some bonus ones in there or something. But like from like a historical or anthropology like standpoint, I read in a book once where like in primitive man that apparently that women would orgasm and they'd be very loud, and it would be like a call out to the other men in the tribe, and that after men would ejaculate, they would be done, and then the other men in the tribe would be aroused by her noises, and because she would still be ready to go, that they would come and have sex with her as well. And then that when pregnancy happened, the idea in primitive man was that there was just enough cum inside of the woman that it would eventually congeal into a baby, and then this idea of fatherhood was shared by the tribe because no one really knew, because it was like, it was all the jizz from all the men in the tribe created that kid.
I mean, that sounds about right. Sure.
So like that's, even though all the kids in the tribe like look like Tony, they're still everybody's,
Well, right. It has to look like Tony so he doesn't eat him, right? Wasn't that part of?
Yeah, I mean, like I don't know what range primitive man that this anthropologist was like, this is what it really is, but like honestly, I don't know how when it comes to anthropology, how they like just decide that this is what happens. Like, I mean, did somebody chisel that down? Like,
right? And did they leave the fire on or did they turn the fire off?
Yeah, exactly. Like, what happened? Like, how did they get that information? But
I like the lights not on, but enough to be able to see myself and what we're doing in the mirror. Because we have like, and like that's kind of a turn on to me, is to be able to see. kind of what's happening, and that's
mirror.
like the closet door is a mirror. It's not like something on the ceiling.
There it is. There it is. Perfect.
Sorry.
Yeah, that was like rolling credits.
I'm a child.
So, all right. So like you like to, so we're back to the lights thing. So this makes sense. So I like to not have like bright lights. Well, unless like, well, I'm making a film, which has been rare.
Have you made a film? Do you keep them? I mean, like, obviously that's a dumb question.
Yeah. You're not going to go to the trouble of making one and then be like, this is
Delete.
garbage. Let's throw it away.
Yeah. Maybe it could have been. I don't know. I don't want to assume anything.
Like when I'm putting that much makeup on my back, it's just like,
Why?
I mean, do you have any idea how much contouring it takes to make me look camera ready?
In my brain, I had no idea, and I was trying to facilitate a thought, but imagining the why. And I think we should move on. Personally. That's not even a story for another time. I don't even want to know.
But I will say this, like, I think that like when it's bright light, you know, you don't want to like, I think the term is harsh lighting. No one really wants harsh lighting. Like we want to feel intimate and connected, but we still want to see what's going on. That's why when I get into the range of like just complete fucking blackout, lights out, like darkness, that gets a little unsettling to me. That's like when I went out on that one date. Like as soon as we got back into her home, we weren't even to her bedroom yet. She turned off all the fucking lights, and like I felt like I was a fall risk trying to get to her bedroom because I didn't know where the hell I was going, and like there were stairs to kind of navigate, and it was a nightmare. And then when you get in there and you're like attempting to like undress someone in an unfamiliar situation, and you don't know, and then it wasn't. I did not care for it. So like I think least a courtesy nightlight to fuck by, like a fuck light. We need a fuck light, right? Do we all need a fuck light?
Well, you have to have pitch dark if you're going to play Who's in Me. So.
Brought to you by Hasbro, everybody. We're looking for sponsors.
It turns out it's a Spaceman Spiff.
I also feel the same way about the music playing. I was making love, having intercourse the other day, and turned on a Apple. I think I like Googled, or not Googled, but searched for love music, and hit play, and of course, like, you got all the TikTok hits coming up and stuff. But like, as songs were coming on, like sometimes it just completely ruined it for me. I hated the song, and I had to like turn it off. I got mad.
I find that music can be a real make or break situation because like so I often aim for no music unless I'm clearly trying to like drown out the sounds of what is happening either in this room or outside this room. But like I find that something as simple as the beat, if it's too fast or too slow, and I find myself attempting to match the beat, I'm like, this is just and it fucks me up. I mean, if somebody like throws on something that's like a high beat count and it's like really early on, I'm like, I'm not gonna come out of the gates like fucking like a wild man. Like I mean, we're gonna make it through like 43 seconds of the song No Diggity, and then we're gonna be fucking done.
Do you have a playlist that like do you have and do you have like a blueprint for what you do sexually? Like first you're gonna do this, then you're gonna do this, and you're gonna do those things?
I would say that like if all things are equal, that I do tend to fall into a routine.
Really what you need to do is you need to choreograph a playlist to set to that routine that like you can get your no diggity in right when it's supposed to be there.
But save that for the end. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I think like the Immigrant song's gonna play like 5 times in there. I think.
Then do it. Like put your earbuds in if you have to. Like she can have her own playlist. I don't know.
That's an interesting idea. If people had two different playlists and like, she's like, flexing her hips to like one beat and you're just
why does
keeping
this
the tongue out
fit?
to the other one. I'm just like, oh, this is something that's happening. I didn't know that like I would do anything for love had this much happening to it.
I personally like the music. I'll put on Ludacris and like Pandora and like that'll be good enough. I can. But you're right. I do try to match the beat, and there's usually a moment of like, stop it.
There was an instance in that last sentence where you said like I put on Ludacris and and I thought you were going to say Pantera. I'm like, wow, that's quite a mix. Like, but then it ended with Pandora. So like now I'm less happy.
Which Ludacris song?
It's all of them. I mean, he is just hot fire. God, that came out of my mouth. I don't think before I speak. Yeah, anything by Ludacris, essentially, or like that genre of music is usually pretty good hip grinding, tongue flicking music.
And is it the free Pandora? Like, do you get commercials in there?
And if so, what are the commercials for? Like, I want to know.
And do they help you climax?
Yeah, does your ad setting? Yeah, exactly. Do you get so used to fucking to like one ad where like it comes on during your regular life? It's just like, come on down to Chick-fil-A and get your nugs on. And you're just like, oh, you're driving down the road.
We are farmers.
Come to the We Are Farmers jingle. Ah!
Oh,
how hard this Packers game is to get through.
Jake from State Farm. Yeah, we have the bit there is actually I go harder and I say, "This is my jam" when the commercial comes on, and that's true. As I think there's laughing in the background. So it's an awkward moment, but it's funny. But yeah, it's got the free version. Thank you for that question.
Wow. So do you guys ever do like the Spotify like shared playlist? That's a neat thing. I've done that like with a romantic interest. We have a shared playlist and like I'll be listening to it and it's like the shared playlist is now something like 11 hours because we just keep on adding music to it. But like every so often we'll get to a section. I'm just like, what is going on? Like
in the music?
Yeah, because I'll be like, how do we have like country, then like hip hop, then Lumineers? I'm like, oh no.
What are the words though? I mean, like,
just wanted to add a bunch of different stuff. Like,
are you sure?
And I just take a moment, and it's like I have this little moment of like just let's just call it love, because I'm just like, oh, that's adorable. And then I go rechange the playlist, so I group the songs together differently. So I have a loving moment, and then I go and destroy it. So I don't know why that is.
Do we need to talk about that now? Or
No, I just have a thing about playlists where like my own neurosis like kind of like attacks something that is beautiful and fine as it was. It was A-okay, just as it was. But I'm just like, these things need to be grouped together. So, well, I mean, I guess that's an interesting detail. Do we have any like neurotic details or things that going on in our mind that like also carry over into the sex realm and like kind of fuck with you?
Are those good days or bad days when you do that?
When I need to,
when you move, those are bad days. So that's like
bad days. I'm making order where I feel like I have chaos. So
sure,
it's like chaos inside. Yeah.
So for someone paying attention, that's like you're saying like, hey, like something's going on. Mm-hmm. Like this isn't just about control. This is actually something a little more. Yeah. So I think that's important to kind of look out for things like that, and everybody.
But pardon me. But yeah, I mean, like I think that like as we all age and things like go on and we find out more about who we are, we find out what our triggers are, both mentally, sexually, all that sort of stuff. I think it is interesting to acknowledge how our own sexual desires will change, or like what are the things we're willing to talk about, like what we will be willing to bring up. Because like I knew in my youth, I was just like, is it gonna happen? Okay, is I mean, and I know that like I tried to make it happen and it didn't work for a long time. So like, my sexual maturity was kind of stunted at a certain point, but I tried to make up for it. This idea that like I would engage in sex and like, okay, we did some foreplay and kissing. Now it's like I have to get on top and it's going to be just missionary and I got to like thrust and it's penis and vagina, and then I was just kind of like going through this routine about what I thought I was supposed to do, or I would see a routine in porn and then I would try to replicate that routine, but it didn't make sense to me. I'm like, why are we doing it this way? Because I don't like having my dick scratched up by your teeth and then immediately having to stick it in. Like it seems like that's like that was an inappropriate thing I just said there.
I don't think so. I think we've said way more inappropriate things than that.
Yeah.
I agree, but that's part of the communication that is very interesting, that doesn't happen when you're not supposed to talk about these things with the people you love. And I think that's the most interesting thing about sex for me, is that like I'm Rolodexing people I've known since second grade, and I've never talked about my sex life with them or what I'm into or what me and people are doing. Like that's, it's always been more emotional, I guess, is kind of the conversations, and less about sex, but not because of anything besides not wanting to talk about it. And I think it's important.
So like any updates we have, like if you guys like had it, like it's pandemic time, so I haven't had any like in-person lovers. So have you guys had any conversations lately? Are things like
Yeah, I have
stuff happening?
I have an update. So I talked with my wife a while back, a couple weeks ago now, and just decided, because I think I mentioned it in the first sex episode, just kind of where I was at with that, maybe some of the other ones too. Just we had some issues and didn't really talk about them. I grew up not really feeling like you could talk about that stuff, and just kind of felt dirty to talk about it. So I did. I forced myself to, and I mean the funny thing is that it was I forced myself to, like, it really wasn't that hard. Like it, well. I mean, we were just laying there. It was one of those like where you're in bed but not quite going to bed yet, and I just said, "Can I ask you something awkward?" And I felt like I had to use this disclaimer, of course. And then, and really the way I brought it up to her, and I'll have to kind of tiptoe around here because I didn't really like get her permission to talk about too much detail on this. I don't think, but like. I just kind of asked if she would ever be interested in bringing toys into the mix, right? And right away she said, "Yes, I already have one." No, no, she very calmly was like, "Yeah, I wouldn't be against it," and just kind of asked why, and that just started the conversation where all of a sudden, and then I immediately just kind of said, here's the thing, it's like I just don't feel. I don't know why, but I don't feel like I can talk about this stuff. And I even said the word cock in front of her. And I said I think that's the first time I said the word cock in front of you. And it's just weird that that's the case with my wife. Like, why am I not allowed to say these things around her? And anyways, it turned into a lovely conversation. And we ordered some stuff and just kind of talked about how, this might be fun and kind of take some of the stress away, because our sex life still had, I mean, not every time, but there was a lot of stress weaved into it. So, so I don't know. I'll have another update later. We'll have a part 3 someday, because this weekend will be the first time that we get to play around with that stuff. But
awesome.
But hey, I mean, and just now all of a sudden we're talking about it, and it took just a very small step And you know what I felt bad. I shouldn't get into this. I'll leave it at that.
You should. No, go on. You felt
well. I don't want to get into too much about her personally. Like,
well, can I interject something here?
Yeah.
Like, let me just like throw this in here. Like, every time that like I think about you having these conversations in a positive, I'm not thinking about you having. Okay, that came out weird.
I mean, feel free.
But like when I think about, I don't know, as a man who's been divorced, and you know, I think about the missteps that I made and that sort of stuff, and the things that I wish I could have talked about, and that sort of thing. When I hear these, you tell a story, and it's even, I mean, maybe it seems something small to a lot of people, but like on the inside, like I'm doing a fucking dance of joy because I'm tired of seeing things fail when they could succeed. And like, I know for me personally that like had I just had a better attitude about getting some help with this, XYZ, and then just having some other conversations and like being a little bit more open and truthful, and like I think that the way that you went about it, like, hey, can we talk about something awkward? Oh man, Jordan, like I could kiss you. Like, I mean, like I would passionately kiss you in a platonic way, but it would get hot because like I'm so excited for you. Like, I mean, I would hold on. I would
just keep the lights on.
I would rub.
Off.
Yes, the lights. I would give you a lot of like the back rub during the hug. I just be like, man, I feel such a high energy amount of like just rejoicing that a simple conversation can go all right because it's not that simple to face the fear of potential rejection and be like, because like I mean, Jordan, I think going into it, like you could have heard, I don't want to talk about that, and really been shot down, and like that like you had to really muster up some courage to do that. Like, do you talk about like, can you explore like how you forced yourself to do it? Because I think that term is like apropos, because I think when we are trying to face a fear, we have to force ourselves to face the fear.
I mean, to be honest, it was in the moment. I had already determined I was going to do it, so it wasn't like in the moment. It was a build up. It has to do with, you know, you guys and friends that I've made over the last year, where just kind of having these conversations and also some of the deconstruction that I've already been doing that was outside of this, like just the, you know, deconstructing my own religious beliefs and thinking about that. And so I have a community of people there, and it just all of a sudden, I don't know, you know, when the light bulb just comes on, it's like the light bulb just comes on and you start thinking like, why can I talk to everyone else about this stuff, but not the one person I need to be talking to about it, you know? And so I was just like, I'm going to do it. And so, yeah, in the moment, it wasn't like I was sweating bullets. I knew I was going to say it, and just kind of like a kid who finally realizes he's going to admit that he stole a pack of gum or something. Like he just does it because he has to.
The bit with talking to your wife is stealing a pack of gum. I like it though, because you're not wrong. Like,
right. What it shouldn't feel like that. It shouldn't feel like you're admitting that you stole a pack of gum. It should feel different. And then now it does. That's a great thing. It's like very quickly things shifted. And all of a sudden, you know, the next night she's sending me, what do you think about this one? You know, she's sending me pictures of toys.
That's
and
awesome.
And I was just like, this is a totally different realm than I've ever been in. And I'm loving it. And she's loving it. And it's great.
Well, I mean, and it's like you can stack those successes now because you've had one successful conversation. I sound like ex-Packer Green Bay Packers coach Mike McCarthy, just stacking successes, just stick to the program. But like, no, like what I'm saying is that you've had this successful conversation, and you can now have another successful conversation when another thing comes up that may be in the similar realm. You'd be like, hey, I have something kind of awkward I want to talk about again, and, you know, but like you've already kind of established this track record of like, you know, like the openness is going to be accepted. And I love like the fact that opens up. So I'm not saying that like you guys are gonna go down this like wild and crazy path, and like all of a sudden you're gonna be in a gimp mask, and she's gonna like be beating the Christ out of you. But like, but you have this path that is open. Like you just you took the roadblock out of the way. We're like, we can go down this path if we want. We don't have to, but we can. And I just love that people who are in a relationship can choose to do that. They can just choose to open the path. It takes two people, obviously, to do it, but like, and I think that that's a nice way to like open a future of growing together, because I think that's too often, like, I mean, when we talk about relationships and it just ourselves as humans is in when we're growing and maturing, and you know we're taking our spin, right? Like we got the one shot here at life. Like we all change, and I think for people like I know for me, I got married very young, and you know we had some things in common, but then as our marriage went on, we both grew and changed, but we went and we grew and changed in many different ways. And instead of growing more closely together, we grew further and further apart. And it's nice when you can think about different ways that you can open a path where you can both have a growth together. Because I mean, everybody, no one's going to be like completely like together all the way through to the end, but like it would be nice to have more opportunities to bring it together. And I'm so excited for that. So like I'm very just like big attaboy for you, and like and for Alex too, because you've had something like this recently. Like, well, not maybe not recently, but over the last year, like this sort of been able to talk about things that you couldn't before. Is that right?
It's been the last like 3 months has been kind of the process of like accepting that like I could be attractive. And this is sort of like a weird thing for people to hear whenever I talk. Like they don't believe me. It's kind of like when I tell people like I enjoy being by myself sometimes. They're like, I don't believe you. So like I had this like repression where like I didn't feel attractive, so I wasn't attracting anyone because I go out into the world and like sex wasn't the objective. It wasn't to try to sleep with people, and so like my actions would be genuine to connect with people, and so it's not it's difficult for some people to want to even be in a friendship if it's not going to grow into something else. So there are times where like I felt like people wouldn't connect with me on a friendship level because they weren't sure kind of what that was, I guess. But anyway, so through all of this, kind of talking it out with my wife and like kind of explaining that like even we haven't had that conversation, you know, like she's like, I find you attractive. Are you kidding me? And it's like, yeah, but it sort of feels weird that like we don't talk about that. That's not something. And like now with kind of like Jordan's thing, and like I did the same thing with the toys where it was like the advice was to talk about it and open that door, and we didn't have any. We just didn't use it. We had sex every like 3 weeks when we forgot about it, and that was it. And went through the motions. But now it's like with the toys, it's kind of opened up this new attraction where it's like there's this playfulness now where she'll be like, I'm thinking about sex. I'm thinking about having sex with you. And it's like such a weird phenomenon. Like what took so long in our 20-year relationship for that to be okay to say without it being like, this is weird, but it's not. So that's where I've gotten.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I'm excited about this for you fellas.
It's the conversation that needs to be had.
So I think that there's kind of an interesting detail when we're talking about like sex and like, you know, like, you said like, how do you just like have this message to somebody, I'm thinking about having sex with you like right now, and like how you can just like say that out of the blue and have it come across like it's wanted and that sort of stuff. It's an interesting detail in the aspect of like, I know that in a lot of sexual interactions, you're like, okay, well, let's have foreplay. And we're kind of like, we're trying to manufacture intimacy, I feel like. But I've noticed that like there are times when, I'm just having a conversation with someone who's close and like there's intimacy and we're sharing something and we're having real feelings. And then all of a sudden I'm just like, I want to have sex with you. Like, it's just like right now, because we've established intimacy and emotion and with intellect, and it's just happening. And then she'll look back and she's like, yeah, I want to do that too. And then we're like, well, I mean, maybe someday when we're in the same room together and it's not a pandemic, but I think it's nice to acknowledge that sort of detail and to be able to embrace it whenever it comes up. Because I think that like, even in a relationship where you're married, and you guys can obviously correct me or chime in how it's different or whatever, but like, I think that there are routines that develop over time and you're like, well, it's not, Wednesday, we usually have Wednesday's fuck night, but like, so like the idea of like, well, I just shared something very intimate with my wife, right? Like let's say that it could be something completely innocuous where like you guys put the kids to bed on Saturday, but like one of them does something that reminds you of your spouse, and you're just like, oh, isn't that neat? Like, look at what we created there. And then you look over at your spouse, and you're just like, look at this. Look at how cute our family is, and like you have that little moment of intimacy because like that's an intimate moment that is unique to you and your family. And like kids at the bed, and you're like, why couldn't you just go, I want to fuck you right now because I love this family so goddamn much. I love this family so goddamn much that I want to call you a slut and fuck the shit out of you. Like, I mean, like, is that like, why can't we do that?
So before I let you in on how our family does it, I'd like to acknowledge a separate thing that you talked about, because I kind of feel like, so this is maybe a topic for another day, but like I've often thought that there's been something wired in me that I need to kind of rewire, because I've never felt like I could have a woman that was a friend. Like every time I'm talking to a woman, I feel like so if I was just doing what you're suggesting, Tyson, I feel like I'd get slapped a lot because I'd just constantly be saying, I want to have sex with you. Did I misread this chemistry we had here? Like, because I felt like the only way I knew how to talk to girls growing up was flirting. Like that's the only language I felt like I learned my entire life. And so to a place where I think it's an actual problem. Like I feel like I have to put boundaries in place, because if I have a conversation with a woman, I'm going to be flirting most likely. Like it's almost, which is weird. So like, anyways, so I don't know. So that,
I don't think you're alone. I think that there's probably a lot of people out there who, when they interact with the gender that their sexual orientation is for, that they have a hard time turning off the flirt and turning on the friend.
That's so backwards for me, because like I have a hard time flirting. Like I don't, like, you hear me say things and it's like, that was a euphemism, right? And I was like, yeah, I guess it was, like I'm not intentionally trying to flirt. Like even in improv, like they'd be like, flirt, and I'd be like, what does that mean? You mean like, what are we talking about? Like, how you doing? Like I'd always go to Joey. That was always like that's how you flirt. Like, right? How you doing? And like, that's not it. Like, so that's,
well, can we talk about that for a minute? Because I think flirting can be a bunch of different things. Because like I'm on, like, when I go on dates or whatever, like I'm a single fella, and I'll just be like, yeah, I'm a good kisser, a good dancer, a good conversationalist, I'm a good date, but I'm not smooth. So like at the end of this date, I'm just going to ask, like, do you want to make out? Because like I don't have that smooth, like I just don't have that lean in and trust it's gonna go well. I'll just stand there and be like, so do you want to go make out or what? And like, and they'll kind of snicker a little bit, but I still think that I flirt, but like, I don't have like sexy flirt. I have, he's cute and kind of dumb flirt. Like that's the kind of flirt that I have. Like, you know, like, oh, look at me being cute and awkward. That's what I can do. I don't have the, like, I can't even fake it. I can't even fucking fake it on a, how do you, how's that ass? I mean, it's like, that's not,
Yeah.
like, I mean, I wouldn't even fucking know where to begin with that. But I do know that, like, when I want to be playful,
You gonna finish that breadstick?
yeah, I'll be like,
Seriously, I'm hungry. Can I have the breadstick?
Exactly. But like, that will work. The finishing of the breadstick, especially if you deep throat it, and I don't have a gag reflex, so it's pretty good.
How did you find that out?
Just dumping alcohol down my face.
Okay.
That's how everybody finds out, right? I mean, wow, that went somewhere. Anyways, lights off during sex.
So an interesting thing that came, I don't know if Alex, if you want to have more to talk about on some of the other stuff, but I have something to bring up that would maybe skew our course a different direction.
Go for it.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, I guess we're kind of touching on it. We're kind of dancing around it. But like one thing that's been on my mind recently is because we brought up before about like how religion and can play a part in this view on sex, right? So I've been doing a lot of thinking about that, and kind of, you know, kind of a caveat to the success that I've had with my wife. I also started kind of thinking about how, because this is in that podcast that I sent you guys where they're talking about how the Christian church and publications that have come out, the popular publications about sex have kind of been male dominant and kind of focusing on the male's pleasure and enjoyment out of sex, and almost made it like a female's duty to, you know, pleasure the man, and that's what you're supposed to do. And which I never thought of. Like, all the books that they list in there are all books I've read, like just indoctrinating me on how to view sex, right? And so then the your wife can kind of feel like, because of other, you know, because of things that she's reading and things that it's her duty. So then she starts feeling like she has to. So that's where I kind of started thinking with even this conversation I brought up to her. I want to be careful that it's her wanting to do it and not her thinking that this is what she needs to do to satisfy me, you know? And so that goes back to this mutual conversation that has to happen. It has to be two people actually talking about what they want and don't want. I think I'm there with my wife right now, but I'm just very cautious of that and just thinking about it.
So there's an interesting thing here. Like, first off, I was splitting my attention and barely listened to anything that you just said, Jordan. But no, I'm just kidding. I'm glad that you bring up that detail about God and like, you know, the positions in that in literature. Like, it seems like it caters to men, but like, that's happening in our chat right now, in fact, because they're talking about flirting and they're bringing up like, oh my God, we have so much to say on this. There's like multiple women in there. They're just saying like the flirting detail and like how it would be wildly different. So it's happening right now.
But so that it does. That's what I was going to say, is that in the Orthodox religion, this is still a thing that's going on. And like, imagine being the woman who's being told you have to marry and please this man and do everything for him. And it's like, you may not even be in love with them. And how are you supposed to not resent this person that's objectifying you?
Right. And by the way, if you don't satisfy him, that's probably why he had an affair.
Your duty is to make children, actually. Like that is your whole, like that is your purpose, is to be a child maker every like Sunday.
But only on Sundays. That's the only time you can give birth. Just otherwise, that kid's going to hell.
I think there's actually like once there's some sort of schedule that as long as she's not on her period, she has to be clean.
Yeah. So if her flowers be not upon her, got it. All right.
But yeah, there's a lot of other things embedded in it. Is my point that is just ridiculous as far as like control of a person. But not to segue to something different, but we were talking about scheduling sex, and this is my like sex calendar, and Sunday is always filled. And I just wanted to.
That's all the eggplants, right? The eggplants are the days. Okay. Mm-hmm. Or is that when you have to water your eggplant?
I think it's not exclusive. Usually it coincides. I usually water the eggplant while egg planting.
So.
What's on your mind, Tyson?
You were talking about flirting before I cut you off and talked about resenting.
My brain is like kind of woo. It just hit like. So I had my kind of breakdown with religion a number of years ago, and I still believe that like I have like my relationship with God. It's just wildly different. But I know that I am not on board with religion, and I'm definitely not on board with like a woman having a role that they have to like play out and that sort of thing. So much so that like that's almost like that's a turnoff to embrace those kinds of ideas anymore. I really hate that sort of shit. But like, what about? I mean, like the roles that like we're supposed to have, the shit that we're programmed with. What can be destroyed or challenged there?
Give me an example.
Well, like I think that when like if you're dating per se, and I think that there is kind of like a track record or not a track record, but like an occurrence where if you listen in like hypothetical, listen into like a conversation from some women, right? And they'll be like, "Oh, I'm going to be dating somebody new," and then like usually the first question is like, "Oh, what's he do?" Whereas like a lot of the questions that come up between men are like, "Is she hot?" And like the idea that like unless the man is bringing some sort of value through occupation, that they don't really have value to be dated. And then the reverse, if the woman doesn't have some sort of like objectifiable, like so like the objectification is like what the man brings to the relationship via skill and providing, and the objectification the other way is like what do they bring as far as like, I mean, does she got great tits, does she have nice ass? And like I think that the interesting thing about this is that when it comes to objectification, like we really hate it when it's unwanted. But I think we also really appreciate it when it's desired. Like, I don't want just anybody to be like, "Tyson, I like your dick." But like, if the woman I'm in love with says, "Bring that beautiful cock over here," I'm like, "Fuck yes, objectify this." Like, I want you to be into this, that sort of a thing. Or if like, I'm in a relationship and I have like a fucking, like I do something really good as far as like my occupation, like say like I book a good show and I do a really good show and it's really sold out. And she says, "That's great. I'm so proud of you." That means a shit ton more because I want her to objectify me. But like, if I find out that one of her friends is like, "What does he do for a living?" I'm like, "Fuck her. Why does she give a shit?" Like, so like I have this very on-off relationship with like the things I want to be objectified for or noticed for or appreciated for. If you insert the word. But like, I think women in and of themselves, like they deal with a lot of like unwanted objectification for certain. This is obvious. It's not if, it's when.
Mhm.
But also, I think when they do find the one person that they want to be with, maybe they like being told, I think your tits are amazing. I would like to suck on them nipples for the next 5 hours until they need some sort of balm. I mean, like,
Well,
because
and
that's what you say when you're like wanting to like engage in like breast worship, right? That's no, okay, all right.
I don't know. I mean, we really need someone, an expert on the panel here. No. um, what came across my mind is like everyone wants to be. I mean, with an asterisk around it, everyone I believe wants to be objectified to some level. So if that means like, if by objectifying we mean that they really find something about you satisfying to them, like I feel like that's a everyone wants it. Like that's an attraction. But I think the thing that takes it, there still has to be this mutual trust, right? So it goes back to this communication. So people can get into some trouble if they're not getting that from someone they trust, and they go around searching for that or getting it and letting that be their sole objectification is from someone who doesn't give two shits about them, but is willing to, say your dick satisfies me, or, the other side, like there's got to be something else there.
Definitely. I mean, I think like kind of the interesting thing here is like Alex said earlier, he was like, I didn't feel like I was attractive for a long, long time. But like then he had some instances where like, I mean, you were probably what, objectified in some way, and then you're like, oh, that's kind of interesting. That's not normal. I'm not used to getting that. And then you bring that home, and then the wife says, oh, well, I've been into you for that for a long time. It's like, well, I kind of need to hear that occasionally, or you can show it to me in some ways. But like, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth there.
Oh, please keep putting them in my mouth. You're right.
I'm gonna put things in your mouth, just not
Please.
words. It's like
Harder, faster, keep going. We only have 8 minutes.
yeah, but like, I mean,
shoot.
would you say that like being objectified actually did something good for you?
I would, but I think you have to set that intention to know ahead of time. But yeah, I absolutely would agree that level of stimulant carried over, and did spill over into my real life, and I think it's very eye opening, this conversation as a whole. So I think it's great to pinpoint kind of the things that you desire and you need, and to make sure that you are vocal about it.
Well, and also understanding your partner's capacity to do that as well, because that's just another two-edged sword of a relationship, where you might want them to objectify your cock right now, but they don't have the capacity to do it. It was a long day. Like, it's not like hey, you have to satisfy my needs all the time. It can't be. We have to respect each other's capacity to do it at any given moment too, and show grace to the other side when they can't.
That's true. So like, I mean, I guess that brings up topics probably for another time about like, what do we do in the interim? But like, I do think that there's like this nice aspect with when you start to find out what are the things that get appreciated, because when we're programmed as younger men, or just on younger people in general, we think that it's like kind of like what society tells us is supposed to be the things that are attractive. Like, I never felt that I was attractive because I wasn't as tall as other men, and I didn't like have like fucking huge muscles, and like I saw all the things that I wasn't. But when I started performing and getting on stage, and then like people would come up and talk to me afterwards, one thing would lead to another, or I would go out on a date, and like once you get to the bottom of the barrel in life, or you get to like your rock bottom, you stop giving a shit. And I'm just like, it's this. And I just was very, very honest on my dates, and I would find things out because I just kind of stopped playing any sort of games. And I just was like, what you see is what you get. And this is what I am. But I would find out that the things that they would like about me, or the things that would be objectified about me, would be like, it was never like, oh, I'm so athletic and I look good in like, fucking gray sweatpants. It was, oh, I like the things that you say to me, or I like the things that we talk about, or I like your point of view. I like the fact that you're fucking silly after we get done fucking, and that you do like a stupid voice here or there. And I'm just like, oh, it's all of these weird things that I do. Yeah, I really like the really weird shit that you do. I'm like, that's not what I would expect. I don't think that was a marketable detail to get me laid. But
It's also okay if she likes the gray sweatpants and muscles, though, right?
no, that's not all right. That's not all right at all. You should fucking stop that at all. That makes me feel insecure. That's not designed to make me feel good.
I'll go back to my situation here quick, just because I think it's relevant. Like, in opening up that conversation with my wife, she told me something that she likes, so that it empowered her to be like, just so you know, I like this. And I was like, guess what? I like that too.
Yeah.
Like it was so, again, so not to like pound home this idea of communication and conversation,
Pound it home.
but like when all of a sudden you find that you both like the same thing. I mean,
and what was it? Can we talk about it? Are we allowed to, or do you want to talk about it?
That'll go into another topic. I mean, actually, maybe we've exhausted the sex topic for now. I mean, this is probably our final sex episode.
Yeah, we're never ever going to talk about sex ever again after this.
We've covered everything.
One thing on our mind at all times. That's clearly not what it is. Like, but Jordan, with you, like, I heard that during sex with one of my partners, she said, "It's like you like the things that I like." I'm like, yeah. And then she came because, like, I said yes, and like I was like, that's pretty crazy. To think that she had been spending her whole life sexually just trying to find the guy who liked the same things that she liked, and then not to feel like she could say it. So like, I think that there's one thing to like it. There's another thing to be candid and open about it. And I think that's the bit.
Yeah, I think absolutely. It's that, and the stealing gum, I think, has to stay in there as well as the bit.
Yes.
I mean, that's the candid open conversation. You got to return the gum. You gotta come clean. Either way,
you got to pay for the gum. You should be like, I stole this gum. I would like to chew it in front of you. So I'm gonna PayPal them right now, and then you and I are gonna fuck because I'm feeling honest and open right now, and this means intimacy. And because I am having intimate emotions, we're gonna fuck now, right? This is the bit.
It's either way, something's going in my
gum
mouth.
Fucking.
So have you guys had sex since this talk? Jordan?
Have I fucked Jordan? Is that what you're asking me? I feel like that's that's a story for another time.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like we both want it. So, that's that's a start.
Okay. Well, good. All right. I guess we'll end there if you guys.
How about you, Alex?
What about me?
Have you had sex? Have you had sex since
Did you see his eggplant calendar?
Yeah, let me check my calendar. Hold on. Let me see. I have this locked down. It says the 28th of February, which was a Sunday. And again, that's on being married to a pharmacist who gets only Sundays off. And but there are other days on there. It's not just that. And because of this,
awesome.
There are times where it's not just both of us. There are times where it's just pleasing me, because that's still intimacy. And it doesn't have to be just sex. It can be other things, because one of the interesting things is I took a love language test, and apparently physical touch is very important to me. And that's, it was very interesting to learn, but also not like mind blowing. Like, yeah, that makes sense.
Well, what about it? Like, so for instance, like if you're having a bad day and Like, what can it be? Like, if she knows that you're having a bad day, and she just walks up to you, and like she cups your face in her hands, and then she lays a nice deep
Nope.
kiss on
Nope.
you,
So
and then turns
got-
you around and spanks
what-
your ass.
You're closer. Basically, she will sneak up behind me, pull my pants down, give me a reach around.
But that is expressing love to you, where other people,
It
that's
works.
like just it's full on rape. But for you,
it snaps me out of whatever spiral I'm going through.
and I think that's wonderful, though, right? That's wonderful. We should embrace these things.
Did you intentionally share this tidbit at the end of the episode here?
I had no idea this was coming. As you can tell by my face.
I knew it was coming.
Tyson was waiting for it. On that note, we'll see you next week for episode 6. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.